The game of chicken between conservative congressional Democrats and progressives continues, this time with Senator Kyrsten Sinema issuing an ultimatum to President Joe Biden in regard to the bipartisan infrastructure bill, otherwise known as the corporate handout bill. The reconciliation bill, by the way, is on the line, and the threat has to do with what she's likely to vote on the reconciliation bill if she doesn't get what she wants on the infrastructure bill. Now, if the House delays its scheduled September 27th vote on the bipartisan infrastructure plan, according to Politico, or if the vote fails, Senator Sinema won't be backing a reconciliation bill. In fact, she's not the only one who has issued these types of threats, although this ultimatum seems to be the most specific because it indicates that she would vote against the reconciliation bill unless the bipartisan bill passes. Now, when you look at Senator Joe Manchin, another conservative Democrat who's captured by corporate interests, he said back home in West Virginia last week that to a group of employees at the Procter & Gamble facility in Martinsburg, he wanted to pause all the talk about the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill until 2022, my bad. And that's a big deal because that essentially means that he's hoping that he can just push it, so the budget reconciliation bill eventually just dies, right? And that is the bill that's the most important because it includes incredibly important provisions, including paid family leave. It would expand Medicare. It would lower the Medicare eligibility age. It would also make the child tax credits permanent. It would have universal pre-K. The reconciliation bill is the big kahuna, and that's what conservative Democrats have been targeting to essentially get rid of or defeat. Cenk.
Yep. So this is the trap we were warning you about. So when they passed the bill, if you'll remember, in the House to go forward with both of these at the same time, but to hold a vote by September 27th, Anna and I were adamant that it was a bad idea. And we were pretty much alone. There was just universal praise of Nancy Pelosi for quote unquote landing the plane. That's what almost everybody said. It's that talking point started with her daughter, Kyrsten Pelosi, pushing it out. And then you saw everyone in the echo chamber in DC, all the way through progressives say, oh, she landed the plane. We got a great compromise. We're in great shape. Now, the reason that we warned you guys about it is because there was no way in the world that the $3.5 trillion bill was going to be ready by September 27th. Hence, it was an ambush almost by definition. So they were gonna say, hey, we got to vote on the corporate-backed bill. Another one is already, don't worry, we'll keep that football there. We won't pull away before we get to the $3.5 trillion bill. And we said, that's nonsense. Of course, they're gonna put a world of pressure on progressives to vote on the crappy corporate-backed version.
Right.
And then say, oh, we promise we'll get to the other one later. And then they'll turn around and go, oh, John, well, we didn't like the other one. We just couldn't, we tried, we just couldn't do it. In fact, that's exactly the track we're on now. Number one, Sinema tells Biden, okay, no, if we don't vote and pass it by the 27th, that's a new measure and a new litmus test, which I want to get back to in a second. If we don't do that, now I'm definitely gonna vote against the other one, and you need every Democrat in the Senate. Then there's 10 House Democrats, and they say, oh, I'm with Kyrsten Sinema. We work for corporations. We don't give a goddamn about your voters, about American citizens. And so those guys are now saying, we're gonna vote no too. And we'd rather not even have the corporate-backed one. The Schrader and the House Democrats, conservative Democrats in the House are saying, if it means that we also get something that helps the American people, the $3.5 trillion one, it helps average person way too much. We hate it, and we will kill everything to make sure that it doesn't happen. That means we're at a stalemate. So they're saying your only two options are progressives, as always, give unilateral surrender. Otherwise, we're gonna kill everything. And of course, the real answer for progressives has to be, have at it, Hoss.
Right.
We're also willing to kill your stupid corporate-backed bill if you don't do what we say. Let's go, let's have that standoff, but there's no way we're surrendering.
In fact, I want to actually go to the video featuring Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez first. That's the last clip in the story because she has made those threats not once, not twice, but several times. And one of the more aggressive moments was when she filmed a video for social media and essentially said that she would be delighted to defeat the bipartisan bill if progressives don't get what they want in the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. As you guys are queuing up that video though, just to give more detail into what Cenk mentioned in regard to Representative Kurt Schrader. Well, he's one of the approximately 10 moderate Democratic House members playing hardball with leadership. And he said that he and several members of their group are on the same page. In fact, he told Politico, quote, if they delay the vote on the bipartisan infrastructure bill or it goes down, so he's repeating what Kyrsten Sinema is saying, then I think you can kiss reconciliation goodbye. Reconciliation would be dead. Well, they're not the only ones who get to issue these threats or engage in this game of chicken. Here's the video featuring AOC that I was referring to earlier.
Yes, nothing would give me more pleasure than to tank a billionaire, dark money, fossil fuel, Exxon lobbyist drafted energy infrastructure bill if they come after our child care and climate priorities.
And of course, AOC isn't the only one. The head of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, Pramila Jayapal, also declared that House progressives had the votes to tank the infrastructure plan unless it's paired with the larger $3.5 trillion reconciliation package. But it's become abundantly clear that the reconciliation bill won't be ready a week from today, the date when Speaker Nancy Pelosi promised moderates a vote on the $1.2 trillion bill to rebuild the nation's roads and bridges. That's the corporate handout bill. That's the way it should be described by Politico, but of course they're not going to describe it that way, unfortunately. But I just want to note that Speaker Pelosi can still hold the vote on September 27th. That bill can still pass on September 27th. It is her decision as Speaker of the House as to when she then sends that bill over to the Biden administration for Biden's signature. So she could very well hold the vote. It could pass, but she could hold on until she gets the passage of the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. At that point, she could send both pieces of legislation to Biden for him to sign it. The question is, will she do that?
So listen, guys. There's one part of this that's easy, and then the rest of it is super hard. So the original deal that everybody called Nancy Pelosi a master legislator for was that they hold a vote on September 27th, not that it passes on September 27th. So now these so-called moderates, the corporate Democrats, are trying to renege on that deal and pretend that it must pass on September 27th. No one ever agreed to that. They agreed to a vote. And so, and now Schrader, this is one of the corporate Democrats in the House, says if they don't hold a vote by then, that would indicate that they're not playing fair in the sandbox. It would be a travesty if they try to play games. You're playing games right now, so please meet a tall glass of shut up juice. So, but yet these threats are taken very, very seriously in Washington. I'm surprised, and I'll give Biden a little bit of credit here, that apparently in the Manchin Biden meeting, Manchin said, now shut up and do as we corporate Democrats tell you to do, and make sure that we vote on the 1.2 billion corporate bill first. That's my demands. Normally, that's when Biden and every Democratic leader would buckle and go, I'm so sorry, yes, of course, President Manchin, of course, right? But apparently Biden didn't say that. He said, no, we don't agree on that. So give Biden credit for holding strong to his own plan. But yes, that's usually unusual. It's a funny way of putting it. But anyways, bottom line here is, guys, they can have the vote and they can vote no and then have both of these things proceed down the track. But if they say to progressives, you must vote yes, they would be nuts to vote yes. They would lose all power, all credibility, all leverage. The $3.5 trillion kiss it goodbye. You won't pass $3.5 in the next bill if you vote on the other one first. That's a fact, stone cold fact. And now, since both the corporate Democrats and the progressive Democrats are drawing their lines in the sand and those lines conflict, there is a good chance that none of the bills will pass.
I think that there are two possibilities in my mind. These are my predictions. I don't know for sure. But one of two things could happen. Either both bills pass, which I think is ideal because I do think the reconciliation bill is incredibly important, or neither one of them pass as a result of both sides of the Democratic Party standing their ground on what they demand.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.